Let's check out these two fixtures head to head. Jerry back with @theatricallyjerry, and today I'm doing a side-by-side comparison of Becen's 19 by 15 watt. This is the BC M195W, and Uking's latest 19 by 8 watt ZQ02102, and this is with the RGB LED ring. Now, they aren't exactly the same parameter wise, but one of the viewers for @theatricallyjerry wanted a side by side comparison to see performance. The BC M195W measures in at 15.7 inches tall by 8.26 inches deep, while the ZQ02102 measures in at 15.7 inches by 8.5 inches deep. So they're roughly the same dimension wise. Becen's fixture has more metal components to it, like this. This is metal. This plate's metal. While the ZQ02102 has more plastic to it. So the Becen one is going to be able to withstand a lot more abuse, while the Uking one, the plastic's really thick on it, so it can withstand some abuse as well, but nothing beats metal. So the entire fixture is mostly plastic on the Uking. Becen's fixture weighs in at 17 pounds. That is due to a lot of the metal components on it, while Uking's newer model weighs in at 13 pounds. So it's much more portable and easier to mount than Becen's BC M195W. Another obvious difference between the two fixtures is Becen's is in white and Uking's is in black. You can get the Becen 19 by 15 watt in black as well, but for this review I'm using the white fixture that they sent me compared to Uking's black fixture. I'm going to go ahead and turn both of these on so we can see how quickly each one loads. As you can see, the Becen's is already starting, while Uking's just started its load process. Becen's is done and has already loaded. Uking's, as you can see, is still going through its self-check, so it hasn't completely loaded yet. And there it goes. So the winner for the fastest startup is obviously going to be Becen's. Both of these lights have a 17 and 25 channel mode, so that makes them very similar. That's for their DMX control. They both have very similar optics, and their front lens plate that moves in and out for zooming, very similar. They look almost exactly identical, including the three screws here, and there's three screws over there, as well as the LED behind each optics here. It has kind of a specialized lens behind the glass lens, and they both have those as well. So very similar in terms of LEDs and optics. The main difference being Becen's is 19 by 15 watt and Uking's is 19 by 8 watts. Both lights have a RGBW LED light system. However, there is a difference in power. Becen's has a 19 by 15 watt system, while Uking's is a 19 by 8 watt system. All right, so both of these are about a foot away from the wall back here. And as you can see, we have Ukings on the left, Becens on the right. They are in their wash mode right now. Let's take them into their beam mode. So there's Becens, and we are going to focus in Ukings now. So here's both of their beam angles at 10 degrees. To give you a better idea, I can go ahead and tilt this up some more, just so you can see it a little better. And then we'll go ahead and tilt up Ukings. So as you can see, even though Ukings is at a lower wattage per LED at 8 watts, it does compete very well with Becen's 19 by 15 watt. And one of the biggest things I notice difference is that the newer Uking creates a nice diffused beam where you can't really see all the individual little dots. Whereas Becen's over here, you can see all of these little dots when this is condensed down to its 10-degree beam angle. So in terms of rendering light, I actually prefer Ukings over Becens. Again, very similar light output for both of these fixtures when using just all red. So there's a very close similarity to both of these light fixtures with red. We're going to go ahead and check out green and blue as well. All right, so we have green here, and as you can see, the Uking has a much nicer beam spread over here, that you're not seeing the separate optics like you would with Becens, but in terms of brightness, both greens look similar. I am going to put this in wash so we can see what it looks like with a much wider beam spread. So we have our wash there, and we're going to do our wash here. So very similar performance. Like I said earlier, technically 19 by 15 watts should be a lot brighter than 19 by 8 watts, but looking at this now, they look very similar. There's not a drop off, and neither one is dimmer than the other with the green here. So while I said earlier this one looks brighter, when they are hitting a surface, they're both very similar in output. So let's go ahead and check out blue. All right, so here's blue, and they both look equally as bright. We're going to go ahead and zoom in on both of these to get a much tighter beam angle so we can look at what blue looks like in a much tighter beam spread. So we got our blue here, and our blue here. So both of these look the same in terms of output. So the Uking ZQ02102 and the Becen BC M195W, even though one's 19 by 8 and one's 19 by 15, the brightness seems to be exactly the same for each one of their LEDs. The only visible difference I saw was that Becen's white runs much cooler, whereas Uking's runs a little warmer, and that's for their neutral white LED lights that are built in. But other than that, and the nicer merging of all of the optics into a beam. This one wins for merging, as you can see. As I showed you earlier, Becens, you can actually see each individual lens, whereas Ukings, it all looks uniform. So that's mostly the difference I see between Becens 19 by 15 watt and Ukings 19 by 8 watt. So here's a side-by-side comparison. This is with all of the LEDs on, so that's your red, green, blue, and white. Ukings actually looks a little brighter in this video than Becens. So that's with all of the LEDs on. Both of these fixtures are linear dimming systems, so let's see how smooth they dim compared to each other. I'm going to start off with Ukings. Now I'm going to do Becens. Now I'm going to do both of them at the same time. They both have very similar linear dimming curves, so you can't really notice a difference in their ability to dim or not. I'm going to now make them go, I'm going to have them dim up. Dim down is very important with LEDs because they can't handle the lower end, but now I'm going to have them both dim up to 100%. As you can see, both of their dimmers are very smooth. So the BC M195W has a claimed 32 hertz strobe, and the ZQ02102 has a claimed 25 hertz strobe, but if you watch my in-depth review, this is more of a 20 hertz strobe. So let's go ahead and compare and see how well each one of these strobes. All right, so this is pretty much their strobe on their slowest setting. Let's see what it looks like on their highest setting. Okay, so as you can see, they're both at their highest strobe refresh rate. And from me looking at it, they both have almost the exact refresh rate on their strobe, which is not surprising because these fixtures are very similar. The Becens actually looks a lot brighter than the Ukings in terms of strobing, but they're both very similar. You're not going to really notice a difference in their strobing. Their strobe channels, however, are set up different for random strobe, so they're not going to match up in that term. All right, so now we're going to test Becen's zoom ability. So we're going to go from its wash to its zoom. So we have our wash, and then we have our tight beam angle. Now let's check out Ukings. All right, so these are from the same distance. We're going to test out Ukings zoom capability. So we're gonna go ahead and bring it to its widest, which is a wash. and its narrowest, which is a beam. So we have our wash and our beam. Okay, so here they are side by side, and as you can see, I'm going to move these so you guys can tell the difference. The Becen has a much tighter beam angle, whereas the Uking has a much wider beam angle, and this is when they're being used as a beam light. So this is a huge difference in size between one or the other, and I can definitely tell the difference just by looking at it. And as you can see also the different color temperatures on the wall. The left is Becen and the right is Uking. The Uking one looks more uniform, obviously, in its beam spread, as we saw earlier. We're going to go ahead and take these into a wash, starting with Becen. So there's Becen's wash. And there's Uking. So Uking actually has a much wider wash than Becen's. This is Uking's wash. And this is Becen's wash. But in terms of brightness, they're very similar. So there's not a huge difference in brightness, and there should be, because one's 19 by 15 watts and one is 19 by 8 watts. So I'm not seeing a huge difference in terms of brightness with either one of them. The only huge difference I'm seeing is color temperature. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can kind of see a better view here. The one on the right looks nicer. It's more diffused, and that would be Uking's. And the one on the left here is Becen's, and it's a much smaller beam angle, but you can see the optics, and it's not as smooth. So there are little dots all around where each lens would be. So again, the Uking one looks better, but the Becen one is a much tighter beam angle. So if that matters to you, I would say get the Becen because it has a much tighter beam angle. However, the Uking has a much wider wash to it. So that's something that's pretty typical for stuff like that, but it's just a much wider wash than Becen. So that is the difference between the zooms on these two. Alright, so now let's go ahead and compare motor speeds on both of these. They're both capable of a 540 pan and a 220 tilt, but we're going to see how quickly each one of these moves, because they may have different motors inside of them. So in order to do that, I'm going to just put them both into auto mode. So both of these move very quickly. I am going to do a little bit better of a test where we look at the pan and tilt while not in auto mode, but I did want to kind of show you guys how quickly these lights are capable of moving. All right, so let's go ahead and test these and see just how quickly they are capable of moving. So I'm going to start with their pan. They're both even in terms of speed for their pan. Let's try their tilt. Now their tilt might be different. Let's see. So their tilt is very much the same as well in terms of speed. So that's good. I'm not sure if it's the unit I'm reviewing or not, but the Becen 19 by 15 watt does make rather much more noise when we're doing our tilt. It's almost like it's hitting something. I can hear a bounce. That's going to be something to do with inside of the arm here, but it might be just a cable, or a cable needs reseated, or a belt might be loose on it, and it could also be the stopper built inside. So it could be one of those, but it does make a audible sound when tilting. We're going to test the sound of the fans on here because I know how important noise is, especially in smaller stage productions or in theaters. So right now, the Becen is on by itself and it's running at full. It doesn't have a variable speed fan in it, whereas the newer Uking has a built-in variable speed fan, and it's only going to turn on when it needs to use it. So right now, Becen is the noisiest, and we're about 2 feet away from these light fixtures, just to give you guys an idea of the fan noise. So let's go ahead and hear how loud Uking's light is over here. So in order to get the fan to kick up, we're going to need to turn on all of our LEDs. The fan just turned on. Now I'm going to put all of the LED lights on both of these at full. So that should get us the maximum noise these fans are going to make. Those are all on, and we're going to turn all of Becen's on. And sorry, I'm not using my light console. I'm just doing this from the screen. It's just a lot easier for me than to go ahead and program these just for a side-by-side comparison. But both of the menus for manual, and manual is what I'm using for this review, are great. So you can access pretty much all of your DMX channels through the manual menu on both of these. We're going to turn the dimmer up and the strobe. Now we have both of these on at max. Now, neither one of these fixtures are particularly loud. I mean, I'm the camera is 2 feet away and I'm about 3 feet away, and yes, I can hear them. But from a further distance away, you're not going to be able to hear them as much. So from about 10 feet away, you probably won't hear either of these, and you're not going to hear them with music playing, obviously. That being said, neither one of them are super quiet, like in more expensive fixtures that I've reviewed. And also, they're variable speed fans. On the Uking, it's usually just either on or off. So in terms of variable speed, the fan blade doesn't pick up its speed. It's going to stay constant. It's either going to be on or off. Whereas Becen's is just constantly on at its fullest intensity. So in that respect, neither one of these variable speed fans, neither one of these are what I would consider a variable speed fan. So while this one does technically turn on only when it needs to, I still wouldn't really consider this to be a 100% true variable speed fan, because it's not varying its RPMs on its fan. So this one's either off or on. This one's just on the entire time. But both of these are spinning at their fastest RPM, and we're about 2 feet away. Now we are about 6 feet away, and they are on the loudest they're going to get, these fans. So this is how loud they are from 6 feet away. And of course, one of the biggest differences between Becen's 19 by 15 watt and Uking's 19 by 8 watt is that Uking does have a LED ring around it, and this is an RGB LED ring. These are a bunch of SMDs that are under a diffuser. So when looking at both of these, which one of these looks more interesting to you with its main lights out? And also, which one looks more interesting when you're staring directly at the fixture, which a lot of times your audience is able to see the light fixtures, especially with some smaller bands that like to travel. Also, a lot of larger bands have lights where you can actually see an LED ring. So when you're comparing both of these, you have to remember which one is going to give you more value for the money, and also which one has more features. And the Uking over here has more features because it does have the LED ring on it. Jerry back with that Theatrically Jerry, and I'm doing my final thoughts on this comparison between Uking's 19 by 8 watt, and this is model ZQ02102 with LED ring, and this is Becen's 19 by 15 watt BC-M195W. So my final thoughts are, I like the look of Uking's fixture better. It looks more streamlined and thin, but I also prefer Becen's much more rugged and durable body on their light fixture. So those are two differences. Something else I preferred was Uking's beam angle. Even though it was a little wider, the uniformity of the beam looked a lot nicer than on Becen's, where it had a very visible breakup. Becen's beam angle is much tighter than Uking's. Uking has a much wider wash, so not only is its narrowest beam wide, but its wash is super wide. It's wider than Becen's wash. So if that's something that's important to you, a wider wash, I would go with the Uking. Now, when looking at both of these light fixtures, you have to consider value for the money and also features. And the Uking has a lot more built-in features due to its LED RGB ring on the front. So the Uking actually is nicer to look at face on for your audience than a fixture that doesn't have any LED ring on it at all. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Some people prefer the LED ring and some people don't, but the LED ring is adding more value for the money. So I liked that as well. Neither one of these light fixtures are active cooling in terms of being able to variate the speed of their fans. I did, however, like that Uking's fan is either off or is on when it needs it, whereas Becen's the fan is constantly on. Neither one of these fixtures are super loud, so if you're going to use them in a bar or club, they're great. I wouldn't recommend them in a theater simply because they're A, not bright enough, and B, the fans are audible. They're not super loud, but they're louder than what I would want them to be. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Both have the same dimming, very similar strobe. In terms of intensity, like I said, very similar. The motors are the same exact speed, probably even the same motors if you opened up the cases. So in terms of speed and fluidity, they're both very similar. I would like to thank one of Theatrically Jerry's viewers for asking to do a side-by-side comparison. I thought that might be fun, so I decided to do it. So thank you for pointing that out. Anyways, guys, if I had to choose one, it would definitely be the Uking, simply because it's a newer model. And those are my final thoughts on these light fixtures. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I do respond to them as quickly as possible. If things like theatrical lighting, DJ lighting, equipment, atmospherics, or tutorials interest you, go ahead and subscribe to my channel at Theatrically Jerry. And thank you guys for watching.